Hello and welcome to MainlineTV.org. Our guest today is community activist Alim Howell. Alim is here today to have a discussion with us about some of the situations and incidents that are going on in Philadelphia and the surrounding areas, Upper Darby, Norristown, along the main line, etc. Hello, I'm John Ricciutti and welcome to the show. Alim? Hello.
Hello, John.
How are you today?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this.
It's my pleasure. What are the topics we'd like to speak about today?
I would like to speak about the Montgomery County crime and gun violence, the Delaware County crime and gun violence, and the City of Philadelphia crime and gun violence. Right now, we're here in the main line, which is Modco and then half of Delco, basically. And for me, I'm just voicing my concern as a concerned civilian and citizen, and it's just the gun violence and the crime, to me, in looking at the news and everything in our everyday lives, it's rising really high. It's really rising. Ever since 2020, when coronavirus came to the United States, and even before starting, the gun violence has been rising, and I'm just concerned as a citizen on why it's rising. I'm an activist and an advocate, and I'm a part and a member of a few organizations throughout Delco and Montco in Philadelphia, but, you know, what I'm here to say is that our Montco and Delaware County elected officials, and just through the senators and the state representatives, I'm not going to name names and all that, but just all the Montco and Delco representatives and elected officials have to really do a better job and do more enforcement on trying to decrease this crime and gun violence, because hearing helicopters, police cars, fire trucks, going up and down your streets, it's just not good. It was just the other day, yesterday, something happened in East Lansdowne, and it was a big chaotic scene where 2 police officers were shot and 8 people were unaccounted for. It was a big fire. The house blew up in flames in East Lansdowne and Delaware County. So I'm just here today, and the relevance of it is, I'm trying to be a diplomat, and then just, the elected officials have to do a better job of combating this crime and gun violence throughout Montco and Delco.
Wow. How do you think the rise in crime came about?
To me, the rise in crime came about a part of it came from coronavirus. That's what I think. Every one of us, no matter first class, middle class, every one of us just felt that vibe and that extra tension, really extreme tension when coronavirus came. You have to put on a mask. There's protocols. Stay 6 feet away from each other. So, coronavirus really put a toll on why people got a little bit of mad, at the businesses and jobs, corporate, all this stuff. Everyone just went chaotic and insane in their own way, but now it's 2024, coronavirus is basically over. Some people wear masks, some people don't. But to me, a part of it came from coronavirus, but then the part of it, I could really just say that I really don't know why from the 1990s to the 2020 era, gun violence has risen. And the only thing I could say is, I'm just voicing my concern as a constituent and a civilian, is that it's our elected officials. And, part of it, the older generation, like your grandmom, your grandfather, they'll say, if you guys, millennials, Gen Z, and other adults, if they don't act right, they don't act right. It's no real answer, but to me, the elected officials can take it away.
Well, you've referenced elected officials. So do you mean like the district attorney? Do you mean you don't have to name any names, because I will. Who do you want to do what? You want them to enforce laws, to enforce rules? I don't know. You're the activist.
Right.
You're not in where, Upper Darby?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I know Upper Darby well. And Is there a lot of crime violence in there? Gun violence?
It's rising. Yes, there's a new mayor, Ed Brown, which a great family member, Hamim Diggins, is familiar with. So Ed Brown, the former president of Upper Darby School Board, he's the new mayor. So then he said it's a 5-year plan. But then to name two names, State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta from Philadelphia and also State Representative Morgan Cephas from Philadelphia, they, on January 17th, they got a bill approved through the Pennsylvania Judiciary House Committee, and they got this bill approved called House Bill 777. So that bill is banning all ghost guns. So that's progress, and that's something. But to me, it's just they have these bills, they get them passed, they get them approved, they measure it and all that. But then it's just like, but why is it still continuing to happen with all these bills and legislation? Now that one bill, House Bill 777, that's a perfect example of starting to try to stop the gun violence and banning ghost guns. But then a part of me is just like, that's great through the political side, but then what are the police departments going to do? Are they just going to, it's coming a little ignorance, but then it's just like, what are the police going to knock on every single door and say, do you have an illegal gun in your house or something like that? And how do they stop and how do they get the guns and all,
Well, I can't speak on Stolzheimer. I know him. I knew his father. And I think that he is pretty objective when it comes to police law enforcement. If you're talking about Philadelphia, and I think you have a connection there, I believe that there is a fractured relationship between the Benevolent Police Association in Philadelphia and the District Attorney's Office. And I think if a policeman feels that his job, let alone his life, can be in jeopardy, losing his house, his pension, go to prison, his house down in Wildwood or the Poconos or wherever, for law enforcement, I think you start there. And as long as you have that relationship where it's fractured, the police aren't going to do what they're capable of doing. Are there dirty cops? Yeah, there are. But police work is dirty. It's a whole lot of things. And there are things that the police need to do to clean that up. In you referencing crime, I've heard a Montgomery County police chief, and I think if Chitwood were still the chief of police in Upper Darby, he would probably say the same thing. A lot of the crime that's infecting Montgomery County and Delaware County, I can't speak on Chester County, but certainly in Montgomery and in Delaware County, is metastasizing from the lack of enforcement in Philadelphia. So I understand what you're saying. When you say elected officials or passing gun control laws, that's great. But if the police feel that they're handcuffed, no pun intended, in doing their job, it's going to be difficult to get those things accomplished. When you have people that are just routinely let out with no bail and allowed to circulate back into society and commit an alternating crime, what do you think is going to happen? I don't know. I can speak for myself, who I routinely go into Philadelphia, and when I get on 76, I see a cadre of state police, Pennsylvania State Police, and once I get into Philadelphia, I see nothing. I see no police.
That's what I said to Word Radio in January. I said to them, like you just said, you see no police in Philadelphia, right? I said, just like the new mayor, Sherelle Parker, she said that she was going to have more additional police officers on the scenes in Philadelphia streets. There needs to be way more of a police presence, not illegal stop and frisk and stopping at stop signs or, trying to get a rise or bother the teenagers or whatever, young black men and brown boys and stuff. It's just it just needs to be a police car presence on certain neighborhoods if it's a high rise in crime and gun violence, but it's happening so much and rapidly and out of the blue where it could come from southwest to northeast, from North Philly to West Philly. It's all over the place and it's discombobulated. So then I did say that to Word Radio. I said that it needs to be an additional police force and presence. But for some reason, it just keeps rising and rising and rising. But if you imagine, even on your street, no matter where you live, the suburb, the city, if there's a cop car on your block, it's a mental thing. It's less likely, when I was coming over here, there was a Haverford police car behind me when I was turning right on, let's say, Eagle Road in Havertown or something. And then, it's just, I felt a vibe, not that I'm black and all that. It was just a regular day. I had my music on, I was chilling. But it's just, everyone gets that vibe when there's a cop behind you or in front of you or present that, I'm not going to do certain things. I'm going to put my right turn signal on and I'm going to drive carefully, do my 3-wheel point turn, whatever, and just go. But then other cars, they were doing the same thing. One car was about to go at a red light, when you see no one on the left side and they just pull off anyway because there's no traffic, oncoming traffic, they go anyway. But then since that police car was behind us and there was 2 cars in front of me, they just said, let me turn my right signal on too, and then just go and just do it steady. But,
Well, you're inferring that because of your race, that you're more inclined to be stopped. I drive that exact way myself.
Right.
The way you drive is the way I drive. And I mean that sincerely. I see a lot of erratic and radical behavior on the road. There's a tremendous amount of road rage. And I think it has a lot to do with whatever's personally going on in someone's life. As much as it is whether it's their personal cost of living or what they can't afford or what they could have afforded 2 years ago that they can't afford now, and it's coming out and they're acting it out in their behavior. That's a possibility. I don't know. But I worked with the Radnor Police in their Citizens Police Academy, and one of the models that we practiced was. And I'm speaking this in terms of you being a black man. There was a car that drove by us. This was one of the models. We were in a car, and the car passed us. And our test was to describe. I know where you're going with the profile idea. And the idea was, can you describe that person? Was it male or female, or what their ethnicity was? My partner and I, who her father was a retired FBI agent, and she was very much police oriented, we couldn't determine what the person's race or ethnicity was, and we couldn't determine whether it was a man or a woman. We were sitting in a car at a location. The car was by us, and we were given a test. We both failed. I know what you're saying, and sometimes it appears that way, but I'm not so sure I entirely agree that police profile. I think police in locations know certain individuals, and they circulate in their community, and I think that they follow them. If I were you, you should continue to drive safely. I understand what you're saying, though. I don't know that. I don't have statistics to back up what I'm going to say. So what I could say, so I'm not going to say that. I'll give you back what you wanted to say.
That's fine. Yeah. One question I wanted to ask you, especially yourself as an experienced citizen, and you've done did that, you lived a good life and stuff, long, good life. What are your... You
didn't have to bring up long.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad.
That's okay.
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good thing. What are your thoughts on why the crime and gun violence is rising? What are your thoughts, especially coming from someone,
If a person has to pay $5 in gas and to go to a $12 an hour job, I'm not going to go. I'm going to go back to stealing. I happen to know in some of the business that I was involved in filmmaking, drug dealers, former drug dealers, Kensington in particular. You mentioned Sherelle Parker. I don't know how Sherelle Parker is going to clean up Kensington. I have no clue. I will say, I offered Sherelle Parker our award-winning documentary on Kensington, and I never heard back from her. I didn't hear back from David O either, so I won't be critical. But I offered to show him the film free of charge, and it's not drug porn, the film we made. But in sticking to the point, I think that people from the sources that I get that had jobs prior to COVID are now back to selling drugs. It's a source of business. You're starting to see people that are robbing properties in Radnor, Havertown. There was an incident recently there. I think it has to do with the economy, and I think it has to do with the fact that nothing's being done. I think the George Floyd movement had a lot to do with crime, and I hope the guy that killed George Floyd dies in jail because he was the biggest criminal of all, which started a whole thing. But anyway, it's your show. There is a high rise in crime. I think police activity is difficult because of the progressive district attorneys. And again, Jack Stolzheimer is not one of those people. I think he is very good. I know I sound like I'm promoting him because I know him, but I know him that he's objective, and I said that earlier. I think that the economy has had a great effect on people. As much as they say there are jobs, there are not. I think that COVID had a lot to do with it, and I think that people's lifestyles that are so difficult to maintain, the cost of living have affected the crime rate. That's my own observation.
And then, so, as a millennial, my answer would just be, we just need to stop killing each other, black on black. Everything you see on the news, sometimes it's brown on brown. There was a Hispanic, Latino, the brother got shot by his sister's ex-boyfriend. That was in Upper Darby on Kent Road.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah. So we just black, brown, white too, and then we all just need to stop shooting and killing each other. We can't just put the blame all the time on the police department. When I talked to Superintendent Bernhardt at Mayor Ed Brown's reorganization inauguration meeting on January 2nd, I told him, I tapped him on the shoulder, I just said, I hope the crime lowers and stops a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And he just said, yeah. He was just like, he's like, and then he looked at me, he's like, but it's really you guys who need to really stop. He didn't say that, just the way he looked at me in my eyes. We need to stop killing each other, and then we wouldn't have to go out and make arrests and do stuff. And it wouldn't be in press conference every week at the Upper Darby Township Police Department.
Well, you, on the subject of killing each other, how much has social media affected you to commit crimes? Your community?
Social media.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, I'm not.
Social media. You go back and forth on Instagram. You're this, you're that. Somebody's girlfriend. Who's there? This and that. Twitter, TikTok. Ends up in a shooting. There have been incidents of that.
Yeah.
And if you're again the superintendent of police in a community like Upper Darby, which borders Philadelphia, West Philadelphia in particular. In fact, Upper Darby was called West Philly West at one time. I don't know if it's still called that, but it was. And if you have somebody while there's police activity that has their phone out and they're videoing that, what does that become? It becomes it becomes up on YouTube, or it becomes it becomes part of the news media right here. I'll talk about that. It becomes part of discovery for a plaintiff's attorney. Let's blame the police. So what's the cops going to do? He can't stop you from doing what you're doing. He can arrest the guy that commits a crime against you, but then what? Then where's it end? This incident here was in the Philadelphia Inquirer. My worst awful newspaper. The Philadelphia Inquirer, witnesses stop and frisk preceded shooting. The incident on the L. There was an incident, and then the person got away with the assailant's gun. You remember this incident on the L?
The only one I remember so far
Recently.
is the knife. The man that had the knife, and they got him right away.
Well, this guy, he got away, and then they found out, well, he had a series of charges against him. And look what happened in New York. Alan Bragg, the district attorney of New York, lets a number of people go free that beat up a policeman. So now, let me ask you a question. If you're a member of that police association in New York, what are you going to do next? You going to do anything? Or are you just going to look the other way? And now you're upset. You're upset because the crime is what it is, and no one's doing anything about it.
That's the thing. Some people look away, and then some people don't look away. You know, it's not completely snitching, but then again, if people see a lot of crime activity rising on certain streets in the neighborhood, from Monco, Delco, Philly, then someone's got to say, like, the neighborhood town watch, like back in the day, the neighborhood watch, the safety captain.
Radnor has a town watch.
Yeah, town watch. Someone's got to say something. You know what I'm saying? There was one shooting that was in 2021 in Ardmore. That was an isolated incident. It only happened once. And it was a shooting right in front of we called it, the nickname is the Shack, the Ardmore Avenue Community Center. You know, so you see how that just happened once in Montgomery County in Ardmore, and it was isolated.
Well, you just had a stabbing there. Somebody had a stabbing on Cricket Avenue with a
That was 2023.
cane, with a cane.
Yeah.
The other day, where that woman stabbed a guy with a cane and killed him. I think she's going to get she's 70 years old.
When was that?
Yeah, recently, last couple of weeks.
Oh, last couple of weeks. I remember the one. There was a stabbing in 2023 at that bar. I think that was on Cricket Avenue.
On Cricket Avenue, 2023. That may have been the same one.
Yeah.
We may be talking about the same case.
Maybe.
It was she had a knife inside her cane, and she stabbed the person.
Yeah.
But I think that I understand that you have concerns about your community, and what do you do? What do you do in your community? Do you go out? Do you knock on doors? I'm not accusing you. I'm just asking you. Do you go out in your community and ask questions about you live in Upper Darby?
Right.
I know exactly where you live in Upper Darby.
Right.
I'm very familiar with it.
Yes.
I lived on Greenwood Avenue at one point in my life, so I think you know where I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So then, what I do is I'm involved with a few organizations from time to time, and I participate in some events that they have and stuff like that, like with the police. There's meet and greets, there's basketball games, there's Thanksgiving food giveaways, there's mentorship at recreation centers and gyms and stuff. But, me personally, what can I do? Sometimes when we call these political offices, or email, sometimes they brush you off a little bit. They kind of give you a cold shoulder. They don't give the full information. Sometimes you call any political office throughout southeastern Pennsylvania, you call their office, say, can I have an email? Sometimes they'll give up the email right away, and sometimes they say, oh, I really can't give it out, this and that. They just say, fill out the website. I'm just like, well, then I understand that the representative and the political person is really busy, but then how is anything going to keep moving?
This is a person in power you're talking about.
Right, people in
power. And you try to contact them.
Sometimes I try to contact them. Now I can get through to them because of the organizations I'm a part of and I communicate with sometimes. But then, back in, let's say, 2016 and before, it would just be like, they would just say, oh, okay, just fill out the form.
These are elected officials again.
Elected officials. What I'm trying to say is elected officials have to be more easy to get in contact with. You know what I'm saying? People, they don't want to be bothered or harassed and all that, but they have to, it can go to one of their legislative aides or constituents and communications director, but then you want it to get on their office table and in front of their eyes to see what your constituents are saying. They also need to have more meetings, town hall meetings, virtual or in person. They need to have more meetings with the whole community at a church in person, and there should be like 50 to 100 people, and they should be saying, what do we need to do to stop this crime and gun violence in our community? More hands-on approach. Now, it just seems like sometimes...
But what's your suggestion? What do you think should be done?
more police officer cars on the streets, more legislation bills passed like House Bill 777, and for some reason it's like a trick question.
What
It's
does House
tricky.
Bill 777 do with regards to ghost guns?
It's the banning of ghost guns. So that means anything when they try to build them or something, stuff like that, that they can't do it.
To buy parts on
Buy
eBay.
parts on the line,
I
right?
know.
And they ban them, and then they can't get a hold of them. People won't be able to get a hold of them. That's good, but these elected officials have to do an extremely more job, especially Mayor Sherrell Parker throughout Monco and Delco and our
Like you're friends with Kenyatta?
not friends. We're just acquaintances. He knows who I am. I know who he is, and I respect
Did you
him.
talk to him about the situation? Because what happens in Upper Darby in many cases is a result of what has encroached on Upper Darby from Philadelphia. No,
That's what a lot of people are saying. That the crime and stuff is coming from Philly to the suburbs and the southeastern Pennsylvania. That's what they're saying. But some of it is starting from Upper Darby, just like the few incidents we just named. That was in East Lansdowne. That was in Upper Darby. That didn't come from Philly. So it's like half and half.
well, okay. So you would like elected officials to do more.
Right. Just more of what. Just more.
Do you think that possibly an elected official is in fear that he or she is not going to get reelected if they try to be more forceful about certain things? The same way the police are worried about their own job, elected officials are concerned as well.
Yeah, that's a part of it, trying to get reelected. But if the
you're
crime
trying to-
keeps rising in their neighborhood, people are going to say, people are going to try to run against them and say, well, you know what, I can do a better job than that. It's everyone. It's a lose-lose situation anyway, because the crime and gun violence is still high, and it comes from Norristown to Upper Darby to the city of Philadelphia and all even in between. Sometimes in Upper Marion, there was carjackings. That was in January. There was a carjacking. A man got his car jacked in Upper Marion. So
Well, you get people trying to walk out of Wegmans with $700 worth of groceries in Upper Marion, or King of Prussia. I guess that's Upper Marion. Yeah. Well, what happens then? Why is that? Why? It's because it's tolerated. Really. I mean, you can say it's targeting, but if you call them as you see them, it's who you see doing it. No?
yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah.
I mean, that's how I see it. I don't know whether you think I'm being fair and objective about the discussion, but I think the police are prohibited from doing their job. I'm a big supporter of the police, big supporter. And listen, you're talking to a guy who spent a weekend in jail in Ocean City when he was in high school. So I have all the reasons in the world to have my own bad feelings about the police.
Oh, okay.
But I don't.
Right.
I think the police are important. Again, like I said earlier, do I think they're dirty cops? Yeah. Do I think the police should clean it up? Yeah. Do I they should clean their own house? I believe that.
What I don't know if you answered this already, John. Is that what do you think that did I say this that elected officials can do? What can they do more to stop the crime and gun violence? What do you think?
When you say elected officials,
State representatives, senators.
well, I know a state representative who I'm very friendly with, and I think that she does a very, very good job, and she is very, very law and order supportive. What has to happen are the police have to have the confidence in the district attorney's office, wherever, Montgomery County, Chester County, whatever county, Philadelphia County. They have to have enough confidence that their actions are going to be supported and what they do. I mean, if you have a situation in Philadelphia where people don't have to have I've seen cars in front of me that had no license plate, no inspection stickers. If you can't stop it, you can't stop a car anymore for the wrong license plate. If you can't stop the car, you're not going to find an illegal gun in the car, or you're not going to find drugs in the car. If you can't stop a car for any particular reason, you're going to let it go. So there's a guy riding around with guns, and they're not necessarily black, or Puerto Rican, or Latino. They're white. I'm just using straight language. So no one's going to do. It's going to start at the grass ground level roots. Cops can't do their jobs. If they're handcuffed, nothing's going to happen. They're not going to take a case to the DA, and the DA is going to give the guy his job back, or give the person back out on the street. That's how I see it. People aren't going to go to work when they can sell drugs or steal. They can go rob jewelry stores, go here, go there, do that, whatever.
Yeah, and it's also a shame that
the kid that killed the cop in Temple, he was white. He wasn't black.
Oh, right, that's right. Yeah.
You know, white people committing crimes, doing all kinds of illegal stuff, selling drugs. You know, I don't know. Anyway, what else you want to say?
That was basically the sum of it and all that. But yeah, it's a shame that sometimes, like the George Floyd incident happened, the more recent one, Eddie Irizarry happened. With the police officer shooting an unarmed victim and doing things like that. But then, to me personally, in my opinion and perspective, is just that we need to stop white people, black people, brown people.
No, they're
we need
right
to stop
there.
doing it to each other.
Yeah. The kid spinning his car around down on Delaware Avenue at 3 o'clock in the morning in his $80,000 Mercedes.
Oh, that was the Pennsylvania State Police.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was from Delco, right?
Yeah, he was from Chadsford or someplace.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I would have let it to the editor about that one.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, wasn't black. The white guy. Punk.
And he got shot by the Pennsylvania State Police for what he did.
Yeah.
But in that situation, though, did the Pennsylvania State Police have to shoot him? He was only, what do you call that again? Drifting,
I don't know. I'm not in the cop situation.
Yeah, like did he?
I'm not there.
Yeah, he was.
I don't know.
Because I don't think that kid had a gun on him. He was just speed.
He probably would have ran 2 cops over the way that girl did.
Oh, right.
If he had to. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in the cop's mind.
Yeah.
3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know whether he was impaired. I have no idea. I just know he's down there. Now all of a sudden he's an honorable citizen, and he's going to be a flautist for the Philadelphia Orchestra, and the beat goes on. I guess you get a sense of how I feel.
Yeah, and as a whole, everything just needs to lower and stop and everything comes, because me and you were talking now. Sometimes it feels like this conversation when you talk to people off camera, off record. It's just like, well, then what are we doing? What are we talking about here? What's the relevance? Why? Why do we care? This, that. But it all stems as us voicing our concerns as citizens and for the elected officials to do it. Because me and you, I'm an activist, and then you're a well-known citizen. It's just we can only do but so much. But voicing our concerns and putting it on record can help. And also, to go a little bit off topic, is when you asked me earlier, what am I doing specifically, and what are you doing? What am I doing? When I have my private meetings with elected officials and superintendents and chiefs of police, I try to voice my concerns to them. And the reason I want those meetings most of the time publicized is I just went to Clifton Heights in January because of the shooting that happened near where I live. And then that happened in August of 2023. There was a big shooting. It came from Clifton Heights and came to Upper Darby.
Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah, and I went to Clifton Heights Borough, and I spoke with the former mayor, Thomas McCosey of Upper Darby, and their staff there and stuff. And, I told them that, we need to lower crime and gun violence. And I told them about the few organizations I'm with. And, back to what I was saying is that the reason I want the meetings publicized is some of the political representatives there are getting a little bit frustrated with me, because if it's not, like, say this conversation here, we could have had this off record. I could have called you on your phone, and I could have just said, as a mentor to mentee, whatever, just, it could have been off the record. But if it's not, everything can't be behind closed doors. It can't be behind closed doors. Sometimes stuff has to be out in the open, the cat's out of the bag, the elephant's in the room. It has to be on record, and constituents have to know what's going on, and is there some progress being made. They're making progress in Harrisburg and through their House bills and judiciary committees and all that, but when they talk to a concern, especially a minority citizen, and they need to, have something on the record that we're trying to do something and speak to our constituents. Sometimes it just feels like we're brushed off and we're just, they're the top people, which they are, but then the citizens, we're just supposed to just vote for them every year when there's an election, and then that's it, and then let's go like this. We can't, that's not how it's supposed to go. That's why I want most of my meetings on the record and publicized, because other concerned constituents that might have been thinking the same thing as me, saying, I wanted to say the same thing to him or her, and they just they didn't follow up and do it. So that's why I want the things publicized and on the record to let people know, if that makes sense.
When you said do you mean the only time that they know you is when it's election time?
Pretty much. Or if there's something really, a big event going on, like a huge event that my father, Andrew Howell, is a part of, a Race for Peace and stuff. If there's a huge event, oh yeah, let's go to that. It feels like everyone wants to get a benefit. And my dad would say to me, everyone has their own agenda and everyone wants to get their piece of the pie and everyone's really looking out for them. But they also care about other citizens. But, it's a selfish thing. Sometimes when they're running for office, they listen more to concerned citizens. And then if it's like a big event where the news is going to show up and all these news stations and papers, that's when but to me, having a private meeting with an elected official on a random day, sometimes they want it publicized, sometimes they don't. And then I never hear back, like you said, David O, or they didn't follow up, or Sherelle Parker. They're so busy though sometimes, but for Philadelphia, but sometimes they don't follow up, and it's just stuff has to be on the record sometimes and out in the open, especially when it's coming from a minority citizen. That's the, white people too, but if he's black, brown, or she, Asian, whatever, it's just, it's important, especially if I'm talking to the opposite color politician. It's important. A few meetings I was kind of disappointed where it wasn't publicized, but it was under the table, off the record, and I felt like I didn't get anything done. You know what I'm saying? Especially trying to represent a few organizations that I'm a part of, or just as a private citizen, whatever.
Well, you'll see what Sherelle Parker is going to do.
Right.
I believed in her. I said that if I lived in Philadelphia, I would have voted for her. But you've had people in Philadelphia of color who do you think that they did enough for your community as they should have? I don't think they did. I don't think they did. I don't think the last mayor was very good, and the mayor before him was very good.
Oh, Jim Kenney and Mike Nutter.
I think Nutter was good.
Oh, okay.
Was he before Kenney?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you'll see what Sherelle Parker can do. I mean, is she going to allow stop and frisk? I mean, the incident on the L with the shooting, where the policeman shot the kid, that was stop and frisk, and I think it was an African American cop who asked the question, "Do you have a gun on you?" I mean, again, you're only going to stop crime when you allow the police to do their job. And I don't know about elected officials. What do you want them to do? I don't know. Anyway, our time's up. Okay. I've had a good conversation with you. I look forward to you coming back with Alim Howell, community activist. You saw the stuff fly today. This is John Ricciutti. Until next time, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the show and found it educational and informative.